beautiful friends. It's Amanda here, and today we're talking about this Candy Kingdom palette. I've already done a full swatch and review with the entire Lethal Adventure Time collection, but I really wanted to make a second video to follow up, really focusing on this palette. It's big, it's colorful, there's so many different looks that you can do with this. So I really wanted to dedicate some more time to exploring the Candy Kingdom palette. I'm going to show you two more eye looks. I do have a peachy pink eye look that I did in the original video. So I'm going to show you this very sparkly neon green look. And I also have a sort of cotton candy inspired look that I'll show you as well. And we're also going to do a whole bunch of comparisons. So we have a lot to cover today. This is very fun because I get to play with sparkles and colors, and I hope that you will enjoy that process as much as I do. So let's start with the eye looks first, and then we'll move into the palette comparisons. I'm going to start things off with the neon lime look that I'm wearing in the talking portions of today's video. And as usual, I'm starting with priming my eyes. Today I'm using this Sigma eye primer in the shade Ignite. And this look is actually super simple. I really just started with a big fluffy brush and using this neon yellow shade called Banana Guard and just really whacking that all over the lid. I'm not being too precise. I'm also building this up really slowly because I am going to add another neon shade. So I don't want to go in with too much pigment up front. I really want to layer in the green and make sure that this looks very soft and smooth. But I gotta say, these matte shades, especially the neons, are so smooth and nice to work with. Neons can be quite dry and sort of difficult to get a smooth blend on, in my experience. So the fact that these layer on and blend out and build up on one another so easily is really quite impressive to me. So I added a little bit of that green shade into the crease area. And now, of course, I need some sparkle. I'm using Candy Castle first, and I'm putting that on the inner half or so of the lid. Then I took a little bit of this green shade and added that just on the very outer part of my lids. The difference between that yellow and green is really subtle, but I think it's more noticeable in person. Then I added a little bit of this Ice King liner along the inner part of my lower lash line and used this slightly more grassy green shade called Lemon Grab along the outer part of my lid, sort of mirroring that yellow and green look on the upper lid. And I felt like just a little something was missing. So this is exactly what I need. This is the Wild Idea liner from ColourPop. I added that Wild Idea green liner in the lower waterline and sort of smudged that out with the Lemon Grab shade. Added some mascara, and that's my finished look. It's really pretty simple, but I think because of the colors and just the intensity of the sparkles, it does have a very impactful look. I also think this is light enough to be a really acceptable daytime look. It is bright, but it's just not so bold and crazy and out there that it wouldn't be wearable during the day for me. This is very fresh and summery and bright. I just had a lot of fun wearing this look, and that's how I felt about all of the different eye looks that I've gotten from this palette so far. It's just impossible not to be a little bit cheerful when you're wearing colorful eyeshadow, at least in my opinion. Now, I want to show you this more cotton candy inspired look. It's very dreamy, pink and purple vibes. I'm going to start with that eye primer first, of course. And this is a particularly matte heavy look for me. If you've watched any amount of my videos, you'll know I love really sparkly, shiny, metallic, foily lids. So for me to do a very matte look is definitely outside of my comfort zone, but it just speaks to how well these matte shades truly perform. I started with Cotton Candy Forest and I put that over most of my lid, sort of focusing in the middle in that crease area there. But this is the base that we're going to build up on. So I am sort of mapping out my eyeshadow area, but I'm not being too overly concerned about blending and shape right now. This is just a foundation for the overall look, if that makes sense. Next, I'm going to start adding some of this purpley periwinkle shade called Gumball Guardian, and I'm using a smaller, denser brush for this part. I'm starting towards my lashes to build up that color and make the most intense purple right there along the lash line, and then I'm patting and fading that color up towards that pinky shade in the crease, and I just repeat this over and over again until I get the amount of coverage that I'm looking for. And then I'll go back and really intensify the pink shade and just make sure that those edges are meeting nice and blurry there in the center. Of course, I've got to do a little bit of something on the lower lash line as well. This helps balance out the look, and I think that it really just helps that purple pop even more. I really wanted the purple to be the forward color for me, but I wanted this pink shade to hold its own too. I've been really trying to get out of my comfort zone with more pinks this year, so I think I'm nailing it. I added some of the white matte shade Marshmallow Kids to the inner corner for a matte highlight. And because of who I am as a person, I can't entirely skip out on these awesome shimmery shades. So I used a little bit of the Candy Elemental color. This is a super shifty duochrome pinky purple type of shade. I added that to the lower lash line, more towards the inner part of my eye, but really smudging out that lower lash line with just a little hint of sparkle. Then I curled my lashes, added some of this Lancome mascara, and that's my finished look. Both of the eye looks I showed you in this video are incredibly simple technically, but they are, I think, still really impactful and interesting without being overly complicated. One thing that I really enjoy about this palette, besides the fact that the shadows are just easy to work with, they blend and mix and layer easily, I think that the colors do a great job of being bright and fun and whimsical, but not so crazy and haphazard that you can't pull together a sort of simple, fun look like this. So I have just overall loved all of the fun, whimsical, summery eye looks that I've done with this palette, and I truly have been enjoying it as somebody who is both a color and neutral lover. Now, let's do one of my favorite things. That's some palette comparison swatches. These are all of the palettes that I pulled out. I have a wide, wide variety. Of course, I have a lot of ColourPop mega palettes, some great indie brand palettes, some very, very old school palettes as well. So we have a lot of great options for comparisons here. There was only one from the pile that I pulled here that I ended up deciding not to swatch, and that's the Play It Jewel palette. Overall, it was just way too neutral once I actually got inside and started looking at the shades side by side. So I didn't bother to swatch that one. However, I do have a whole lot of palettes here that I think are really worth our time and worth the effort of swatching. The first one being this BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette. I'm actually going to pair this with the Fade into Hue palette because this one, Fade into Hue, is missing some of the neutrals. BH Cosmetics has the neutrals that this one needs. So we're going to combine the two, and ultimately these end up giving us a pretty darn good comparison. So I don't know if it's safe to dust off your Lost in Los Angeles palette. This one is very old at this point, but if you happen to have it, maybe disinfect it first. Maybe it's time for us to spray these with a little alcohol before we use them. But if you could pair that with your Fade into Hue palette, you have a almost dead on dupe. There are a couple of shadows here and there where the tone or the undertone is off, especially that very last dark blue shade. I don't have a dupe for that in this particular lineup, but I can find one in the Clarity Aloha palette. Unfortunately, one of my shadows is cracked in this palette, but the Aloha palette, which I believe is now discontinued, paired with the ColourPop Winx collaboration palette, just like Magic's, makes another pretty similar color story when these are combined. Not quite as dupe worthy as our last duo, but these two palettes are more current than the Lost in Los Angeles palette, so probably a greater chance that you still have these kicking around in your collection. I know the Winx was within the last 2 years. 2-ish years. I can't keep it straight. They release so many collaborations lately that I cannot keep the timeline in order. I wonder how I would do in a ColourPop trivia competition. I mean, I think I would do all right. I think I would do better than most. Speaking of ColourPop collaborations, how about this Palette Town palette from their Pokemon collaboration? This one was very popular in my household. I have a 10-year-old who loves Pokemon, so this is one that I revisit frequently at his behest. And in this case, it made a pretty excellent comparison. I think we get a little bit lost in the center area there, but the first few and last few swatches are incredibly close. I do think you could get a lot of very, very similar or at least comparable eye looks out of these two palettes. So if you happen to have the Palette Town palette, you might be able to satisfy your curiosity for this Adventure Time palette with these shades. Next up, we have the Bon Voyage palette. This one was done in collaboration with BT21, and despite the sort of similar colors here, and I think even in the swatches, you will be able to tell a little bit. I don't think that these are quite as comparable performance-wise. The Bon Voyage palette is quite a bit lighter overall, and it's just really lacking the intensity of some of the neon shades in Candy Kingdom. But depending on your style and your preferences, that might not even necessarily be a bad thing, especially if you want to go for a lighter wash of color type of look. If you have the Bon Voyage palette, I do think it would be a suitable substitute for a lot of Candy Kingdom looks. The only Odin's Eye palette in my comparison section today is this Eternal Twilight palette. This one has been really carrying the team in a lot of my comparison videos. In general, I think this is probably one of the least similar, least successful comparisons. Certainly some similar shades in here, but overall, I would say we have a less than 50% match. I didn't even have some shades worth swatching because there's just not anything close enough to substitute in. In general, Eternal Twilight is darker, more moody, and Candy Kingdom is lighter, brighter, just more whimsical. I'm glad that I swatched these to satisfy my curiosity, but I definitely don't think this is the best comparison overall. For my very final comparison, we have the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream palette. I can tell right away that we're missing some of the deeper, more impactful shades, especially those blues that we find in the Candy Kingdom palette. But in general, I do think that, you probably have one of those in another palette somewhere. So this is still a pretty darn good comparison. In general, it's really just those two dark blue matte shades that I think are severely lacking, but otherwise, almost all of these shades have a similar counterpart in the Ice Cream Dream palette. This is another very oldie but goodie from my collection, probably from the same era as the Lost in Los Angeles palette. So, if you're using older palettes, just make sure you clean them off before use. that's it. I hope that you found this video fun, helpful, entertaining. At the very least, I hope you just enjoyed some time swatching and staring at pretty things and hanging out with me. I would love to hear what you think about this palette. Which eye look is your favorite? Are there any other comparisons that I missed that you really want to see? I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure you go check out my previous review video for more information about this Adventure Time collection. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye! I know editing Amanda is not gonna remember that. Let's get weird. Okay, Blue's Clues. I don't know. Oh, I'm hungry. Is it lunchtime yet? For a look that has neons and two different kinds of eyeliner, this is honestly such a cute, like, fresh little springtime. I feel like a sparkly lily pad. And I love that for me. Constantly trying to become a moss girl. It's giving brat summer. And I mean that with all due respect. So cute. She's sparkly. All I really want for my eye looks is to wonder if I'm leaving a trail of sparkles behind me. I know a lot of people are like, they hate Fallout. Fallout is their worst enemy. I think Fallout is fine as long as I am just shimmering. I want to leave a path of shimmer in my wake, okay? I want to be every type of metallic, glowing, shining, sparkling, which I know is ironic because I hate pressed glitter, but that's only because of the eye safety hazards. It's not because I don't like the look. It's just I can get a similar look in a safer way by just loading my eyelids with metallic eyeshadow. And that's what I am absolutely gonna do at all times. Pay attention. I'm talking to me, not you. You can do whatever you want. I'm not your mom. Okay. I know these don't match, but I just wanted to wear them. These little heart beads look like candy, and I just thought they were cute. Probably could have found some green ones, but I actually didn't know what eyeshadow color I was going to do until I sat down and just picked something. Queen of winging it. Ironically, can't do winged eyeliner. Okay. Anyway. Crushed it. We crushed it. Oh yeah. Alright, Macho Man Randy Savage. What is going on with me today? Anyway, love your face. See you real soon in my next video. Okay, bye!